Monday, March 2nd, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering on today's episode of the show. As the spread and threat of the coronavirus continues to grow, the number of large gathering conventions shutting down continues as well. We'll give you the details on what we know now. And as usual, we have a great lineup of guests, including Austin Cohen from a company called FlexIt that allows you to access gyms anytime you want, paying only for the time you spend there. Plus, have you ever had concerns about the radiation being emitted from your devices? Well, we'll be joined by Ryan McAhee from Gadget Guard, who has some interesting products to combat that. And since it's Monday, we'll also be joined by Drew Prindle for another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet, where Drew scours the internet high and low to find the best of the cool crowdfunded products, including the ultrasonic Ultrasana cleaner. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Hello there, this is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. All while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're watching, thank you. Hit subscribe, join the conversations that we get to have. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, but to get started here, I'm Greg Nibbler, here with Adrienne Warner. Hello, Adrienne.
Hello.
Hello, it's Monday.
It's Monday, yes it is. You know, someday I'm going to take you listing out all of our social platforms and places we stream, and then I'm going to remix it.
Oh.
So stay tuned for that.
That does need to happen.
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
actually secret messages hidden in there that if you play it backwards, that's where you can find out the
All
secret
right.
codes that we have.
I don't know. That sounds dangerous.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. Hello, everyone. Let's talk about trending tech news, though. And let's get started with this, with a topic that we cannot avoid talking about, and that is the coronavirus. I mean, it's everywhere. No matter what you're looking at, you're going to be covering that in some sort of way. And we'll kind of look at it from the tech angle of things. And in particular, the fact that so many conventions are being canceled or delayed because of the coronavirus. I mean, certainly MWC was one. The Geneva Auto Show was canceled with an average attendance of about 600,000 people. That got canceled. Now you have the Gaming Developers Conference, which is basically permanently delayed because every major company backed out. So that one's been delayed. And now, just today, we're getting word about South by Southwest, which is coming up soon. And Twitter has already stated that they weren't going to be allowing their employees to do any non-essential travel. But now, Jack Dorsey, who's going to be the head speaker there at South by Southwest, has canceled. Twitter is not going to be there at that event in what's kind of a pretty big blow to it. Now, they're still saying that they're going to go on with it.
Yeah, a spokesperson said on Sunday that they're still going to continue on with the event, and this is actually after a petition was filed on change.org and over 15,000 people signed asking to cancel the event or at least postpone it until the threat of the virus has been more contained.
Yeah, that is definitely a concern. I mean, and you're going to start seeing this more and more with all of these events that are happening. I mean, Facebook started going through some of the cancellations.
F8, it was canceled. PAX East was delayed. It did still happen. Emerald City Comic Con is something that is still happening, but is kind of, in question because 2 of the deaths in the U.S. were in Seattle area.
Yeah, the Seattle area definitely getting hit with this, and there's it's spreading right now. So yeah, there's just so many different things to be concerned with this, and as you see this going forward, like how many large gathering conventions can happen, until this is under control, and right now there's no sign that it's really going to get under control anytime soon.
Right, exactly, and a lot of these events that are in question, have major influences from the tech realm. South by Southwest is more of a media event. It has over 70,000 people in attendance, at least last year. So it's I wonder if the reason that they're saying that they're not canceling is because they're not expecting huge crowds of people from overseas. But still, even within the U.S. it is spreading rapidly and is starting to pop up more and more. So there's just really no way to guarantee that if you have a large gathering of people that there will not be some sort of threat there.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much is going on with it right now, and just talking about the media side of things too, just how much information is out there and how much false information is out there.
Yes, that too.
That is something I think definitely people should be careful about where you're reading, what's happening. I actually took an Uber ride over this weekend, and the guy who was driving was telling me about how the coronavirus was created by Microsoft to actually help control the world population. And
Microsoft taking a big swing there.
yeah, really going after that. And I was like, no. And I tried to had to talk him out of that and direct him towards some actual news sites. But that's the kind of stuff that's out there. People are spreading this kind of information. So
yeah, this misinformation is just spreading almost as quickly as the virus itself.
Yeah. So just be careful where you see it. I mean, the one thing I could say is, think that we've all read is wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, and then wash your hands again.
Yes.
Just wash your hands.
Just wash your hands a lot.
Yeah.
Just keep washing your hands and avoid people who are sick.
Yeah, which you should be washing your hands anyway, but that's fine. If you haven't up till now, now's the time to start doing it. So there's that just coming out of this. And there was something else, too, I wanted to bring up just with China, and it has to do with the New York Times article that came out just talking about how they're handling it, which is an interesting way they're going about it. So over there's a thing called Alipay, which is based off of Alibaba, which is huge in a lot of the world, except for really the U.S. It's not as big here, but think of it like Amazon, only even maybe more powerful.
Yeah, even larger.
Even larger, than Amazon, to where they have their own pay system, and it's used by a lot of Chinese citizens. It's kind of like, your Samsung Pay, your Google Pay, Apple Pay, but it's Alipay. But now they've incorporated another aspect into that with the health aspect, in that when you sign up for this health service, it will give you 3 different diagnoses. You'll either get a green, which says you're healthy, you're free to travel. You'll get a yellow that says you should be careful.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful who you're coming in contact with. Maybe don't travel outside of the city, or foreign travel.
Right.
And then red.
And then
which
red
is just like quarantine yourself.
Red means you're going to be quarantined.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and the way this works is you have that, and there's actually a lot of images that are coming out from China now of just, this is how people are getting around on the mass transit system, where you have authorities who will look at people's apps and say, if you're green, you can go ahead. If not, they will get you. They will tell you not to go and quarantine you if necessary.
And this app also in real time shares information with the police, so the police are notified, whether you are a risk to people around you.
Yep, and every time you're scanned, they get a notification. So there's all kinds of weird tie-ins with that. There's also apparently no indication of how they determine your status.
Exactly.
So they just either apply a green to you or a red to you, and nobody really knows how or how to get that changed, from what we're reading anyway, from people who are able to report on this. And sharing all that information with the police. It's working in conjunction with them so they know where you're moving, what you're doing.
And the New York Times found out that some of the information that is being shared, although they still don't know how they're classifying people, some of the information that's being shared is a person's location, the city, the name, and then there's an identifying code that's associated with that person's app that's sent to the server and shared with the police, potentially other critical, agencies.
Yeah, it's definitely it's, I suppose, not surprising that China would be using this, but
It is not surprising, considering how much surveillance they have on their people.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to say, like, okay, we're approaching this from a tech angle, and they've already, gone through a bunch of, authoritarian measures to shut down and help control the spread of the virus. So this is kind of not surprising, but it is definitely a very interesting application of it.
And it makes you wonder what's going to happen after, the coronavirus goes away. They're already part of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're part of the system.
Let's see if you can delete this after the coronavirus has ended.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, we'll have to see what happens with that. But again, there's just so much information coming out constantly, and we'll try to keep you up to date with everything that we can. We've got certainly all the news at digitaltrends.com, anything at least associated with tech when it comes to that. So follow along there. Make sure you go to reputable news sources. If you're coming here, you probably already do. But don't be like my Uber driver over the weekend. Just find a good source.
Microsoft did not start.
No, I am confident to say that I do not believe that Microsoft. So check out all the news sources that you can, but definitely find some verified ones. All right, we need to continue on, though, and talk about some other trending tech news.
Excellent.
And I know we have this, so having to do with Google. Google Stadia, some news about that, where it's some coverage essentially talking about how we're finally going to get to see that free tier, which we had not seen before. So Google Stadia obviously has had some issues with the rollout, and we have our own Matt Smith, who has tried it out extensively, and he's got some reports on that as well. But this would be bringing out that free tier to where you would finally be able to try it out without paying that subscription fee, going for the Stadia Pro. You would be limited on how long you can play at a time, but still, I think that would be a good way to get more people in, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't start this off in the beginning.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm surprised to see that it's just being added now, after a couple months after their kind of wonky rollout. So, they're obviously trying to attract as many members and having them sign up without the option of a paid code, which I think is important. Even if people don't start using it right away, having access to it, being able to get on the platform and see what's available is going to be a kind of a huge, it's basically like they can just select from the menu. They want to go in and see what's there.
Right, and that's, I mean, for a lot of us, this is a new kind of system, a new way to play the games. I mean, as far as Google Stadia itself. And yeah, I would rather try it out for a little bit first before I just jump in and say, oh, yep, I will just pay.
Yeah.
So at least we have word anyway. We believe that that's finally going to be rolling out. So that's one part of it. Also showcase some more YouTube streaming options for Google Stadia, which isn't surprising at all. YouTube's really going after that live game streaming market and taking a bunch of people away actually from Twitch, but then you have Mix, so everybody's kind of going after this. So not surprising that YouTube would have more options on there as well. I just hope they have some more games. That's really.
So have you checked out what's on there yet?
Yeah, I mean, so far nothing on there, quite honestly, is super appealing to me. But I think you need, if you're going to be paying a subscription service, you need a wide breadth of games. And that does sound like something that they're going to be working on to bring more onto the platform. But we'll have to see. I will definitely try it once the free one rolls out.
Right. It does really seem to me that this is kind of marketed and geared towards people who stream their games online, like actually stream their games as they're playing them. And I feel like that's just a very small piece of the market.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Of people that would be doing that. So we'll have to see where it goes from there. But at least some more news coming out. And I want to know what people think about that too. If Google Stadia is something that you're already using, you're very excited about. If not, we do have a great op-ed that went up from Matt Smith at digitaltrends.com where he just tried cloud gaming for a month and kind of gave his opinions and thoughts on that, about what that means. So you can take a look at that as well. But that's just a little bit more info coming out about Google Stadia. So take a look at that at digitaltrends.com.
And yeah, some more Google news, or at least related.
Indeed.
So Google's parent company Alphabet is announcing a program called Tidal. So it's essentially a program that is aimed to help the sustainability of the ocean, supporting life and the sustainability of our fish and our wildlife there. So its goal is to develop technologies that will help the sustainability of the ocean.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and as you can see right there, they've got fish facial recognition software.
That's cute.
That's a thing. So that's actually what they're showcasing. So how it works.
I mean, those are a lot of fish in those schools.
That's a lot of fish. But apparently.
You're like, that one's Fred, and that
one's. Tim, there goes Tim, there goes Tim.
There goes Tim.
Janet, damn it. But that's what they're doing though with this is they can actually really can identify individual fish, track them over their life, track their feeding habits, track what they're doing, how they're moving around, and they're doing this in fish farms to where naturally they'll see the same fish over and over. And then the goal is to understand, okay, are they overfeeding them? Is there different things they could do as far as maintaining them that would reduce energy costs, reduce food waste, and different aspects of that, in the idea that if you can create sustainable fish farms or sustainable seafood farms, essentially, that would actually alleviate a lot of the pressure on the oceans. And this is part of Google, what's called Google X. So it's this whole group of companies and entrepreneurs that they're working with, and to where they are trying to build their tagline is to build and launch technologies that aim to improve the lives of millions, even billions of people.
And billions of fish.
Billions and billions
well,
of
yeah,
fish.
So it'll track a lot of these behaviors that are not necessarily visible to farmers. So, we hear a lot about how fish or other ocean creatures, their behaviors change, depending on climate change. I think is a really huge factor. And so this could be something that could be really key with really tiny, minute changes that are not necessarily apparent to humans.
Yeah, and if they can get it down, really dial this in. One of the other things they said that fish have such a low carbon footprint, comparatively. So
sorry, I'm just thinking about
facial
fish
recognition. Yeah. So it's something that I know, just saying it out loud. But that is something that they're working on. So it's kind of an interesting use case. The hardware they developed is pretty cool. It can withstand pressures and salt water, and these cameras are really rugged, combined with an AI they've developed to identify the fish by their faces. And then that's something though. But once they get all this information, it'll hopefully be very useful. So that's kind of their goal. They've been using it actually for a couple of years. They're just announcing it now.
That's cool.
Yeah, so take a look at that at digitaltrends.com. FlexIt.com. And finally here for our trending topics, and then we do have our product of the day. Let's talk about AT&T. So we all know that streaming services are myriad, and there's so many of them, but AT&T has yet another one now called AT&T TV. There it is. So this
AT&T TV.
AT&T TV. So it's designed as a replacement to DirecTV and or basically traditional cable TV packages, but streamed online. So think of it along the lines of probably like a PlayStation View, a replacement for PlayStation View, something like that, or YouTube TV, competitor for that. So where you have live television, then you can also put in your usual apps that you utilize and stream
Like
this
Sling
online.
or something like that.
Sling, yeah.
So yeah, you could add, additional channels.
Additional
there we
channels,
go,
yeah,
like HBO. And this will be rolling out to a limited market. So it'll be 13 markets total, including New York, Seattle, and El Paso. And this is going to be coming out on Monday.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, just another option in the myriad of streaming services. And let's see, what's the cost on this?
Yes,
guy?
so I've got some more details on it here. So I think it's actually rolling out today, Monday.
Oh, today,
yeah,
Monday.
So nationwide today. And it's going to be $50 a month. So you do need to get a set-top box for it. So you'd have to get one of their boxes. And then there's a bunch of kind of like usual cable packages, a bunch of hidden charges. There's a fee for local sports. There's, I think you have to rent the box. No, you get one box for free to start off with, but then anything more you have to pay for it. Also, it's $50 a month for the first year, but you have to sign a 2-year deal. And in the second year, it jumps up to $93 a month.
This is some real Comcast stuff going on.
It really is. I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous price.
That's
jump.
crazy.
Now you get HBO for free with it, and you will get HBO Max included once that rolls out. I believe in April is when that launches. But I don't know. It's kind of it's one of those things. I mean, I do like getting live television programming, but this is expensive.
This is really expensive.
Yeah.
There's just so many options. People are getting exhausted with trying to figure out, they have these habits kind of set in stone already. When something else comes in, I would imagine that they're not even really that interested, unless you're already an AT&T customer and you're able to get some sort of bundling or something like that.
They have a
That
couple of bundle
seems-
packages, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
still expensive.
That's really expensive.
Even with the bundles. But, let us know what you think about that. I mean, it's just one more, and you're going to see so much competition in this space as every kind of company tries to figure out their way to get your dollars, get your streaming dollars, which is definitely a lot of competition. I'm interested in HBO Max, but I don't think I would be interested in AT&T TV, not for a 2-year contract. That's kind of going backwards.
Yeah.
That's not what we want. I think that's what we've all learned. Consumers don't want a long-term contract, especially when it almost doubles in the second year. But you take a look at that.
Especially knowing that that's just coming down the pipeline
no
and that you
thanks.
can't do anything about it. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
No, thank you.
It is. But you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. It's now time for the product of the day.
Hello.
Hey, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
All right, what do I have here in my hand? Well, this is what's called the WineGuard FL5 500A flat-wave amped digital HD indoor amplified TV antenna. I just said a whole lot of things right here. Here's what it really is. It's a way to get free programming. So we talk a lot about different streaming services and how much they cost, but did you know there's a ton that's actually just being broadcast that you can access if you have something like this? And that's true. So I'm talking about local stations, local sports, all of that stuff that usually you have to pay extra if you want to stream it. Well, if you match it up with all of your streaming services, you can get this for free. So one of the things that you can do, it's, like I said, many streaming services are included with this. You have live sports, local news, all of that is free. Now, this antenna itself is 4K ready. So when you buy it with the amped one, it'll stream that 4K content. It'll stream in HD. If there is 4K content that's being broadcast to you, well, you'll be able to get it. It's got a 50-mile long range, which is huge. So this thing can pick up stations from all over the place, which is kind of fun because then you get to see what maybe some other markets are actually broadcasting. Again, all free online, or all free, over the airwaves. And that's the big advantage. So it's multi-directional. When you set it up, you actually, as you can see right there, you've just got a little sticker that you put it onto the wall, so it's really easy to use. It just plugs in, you scan for channels, then boom, free TV. I mean, who doesn't like free? Again, free TV.
Boom.
But to get the free TV, you do have to pay. But I mean, of course, it's not too bad. So that's what I'm saying. It's $51.90, which is about the same as a lot of different packages where you do get that live local content streamed online. Well, one time, $51.90, you can get a whole bunch of them all for that. So this is our product for the day. Again, this is the WineGuard HD antenna. You can click the link that is below whatever platform you're on. We've got the link to it. Try it out. I mean, for that price, the one-time charge, and you get all that stuff, all the content for free, pretty good deal. So take a look at that right now, and that is our product of the day. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live. We've got Corey Gaskin up next with his Samsung Ultra video that's kind of showcasing some of the different things from the S20.
Oh, is like the super zoom?
Like, yeah, he's showcasing his favorite things.
Okay, exciting.
So that is going to be coming up next. We've got some great interviews that are coming up. But before we go to break, first we need to say thank you to Adrian Moore.
Thank you, Fred.
Adrian, thank you. Much appreciated.
Always.
We
Always a
appreciate
pleasure.
everybody who joins us here on Digital Trends Live and for tuning in. So again, drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to talk about. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live.
What's going on, guys? We've got the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra in our clutches, and we've been putting it through its paces for the past week. We've got a camera comparison coming, the full review, but there's a lot to love about this device. So before we get into all that, we're just gonna do a quick 5 things that I'm loving about the S20 Ultra so far. So the first biggest feature for me is actually not the camera, it's the battery. Battery life is a really important thing when it comes to using your phone, and especially with a phone this powerful and this big, you're gonna wanna get at least a day out of it, which I'm very happy to report that you easily can. On my heaviest days of usage, I was able to get anywhere from 4 to 6, 7, even 8 hours of screen on time with this device. And mind you, this is all with 120Hz refresh rate enabled. Samsung does admit that the 120Hz refresh rate will affect battery life, so you can pop down to 60Hz if you need to, but in order to get through a day, I haven't found it necessary to do that yet. The best part about this is, when I did need to charge the device, the included charger, which by the way, unfortunately is not the 45-watt charger, still was able to charge this up in just about an hour every time. The next thing, of course, we have to talk about is those cameras. Now, we have a full camera comparison with the iPhone, Pixel, and a little bit of the Huawei P32 coming up very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But let's just talk about this zoom really quick. So yeah, the zoom on this is nuts. It's even better than I kind of expected it to be, but I still have a little bit of trouble figuring out exactly when or why I would use it. I will say that up to about 30 times zoom, you can get some really cool photos. With that 108 megapixel camera, you'll be able to take 108 megapixel photos, which allows you the ability to crop in really tight on specific details or things that you might not have even seen in the initial photo, but be able to retain a lot of detail on that subject when you crop in because there's just so much data there. But of course, the thing that's really gonna blow your mind are the live crops that you can do with this 48 megapixel, 100 times zoom, 10 times optical zoom telephoto lens. So as a reviewer, of course, I tried to seek out situations where I would need 100 times zoom, and it's pretty hard to find a situation that you're gonna need that. But anywhere in between that 0 to maybe 30 times range has some really usable use cases. So the first thing I went to was the Statue of Liberty. And as you can see, it's pretty hard to see from the naked eye at a certain point. I was in Battery Park, and from there, it's kind of a blip on the map. Zoom in to about 5 times zoom, and you got kind of a nice thing going on here. You got a nice little sunset, and you have a kind of beautiful crop. Zoom into about 10, and you have an image that you probably couldn't have even foresaw in your head without getting to that point on your phone. This is especially true when you go to somewhere around 25 times zoom, which gets this tight crop that you definitely could not have seen with your naked eye. You can go all the way up to 100 times zoom and really just look at the torch of the Statue of Liberty, but if you can tell from the 1x zoom here, it's not something that you're gonna think you're gonna do because it's so far off from the naked eye, you couldn't even conceive of it. And that's what I started to notice the S20 was doing for me, was changing my perception of what I can take photos of and how. So as is typically the case with Samsung's Galaxy phones, you're gonna get great daytime photos with tons of detail and beautiful colors, but nighttime, while it is improved over the S10, is still not quite at the level that iPhone or Pixel is. We'll go into more depth on that in our full camera comparison, but one other thing that I can say definitely improved is the selfie game on the S20 Ultra. Compared to last year's S10, whether it's selfies or even just regular photos, it doesn't look as overly sharpened, overly beautified, dynamic range is improved, and it just looks a little bit more natural than it has in the past. Samsung's also really bringing the heat when it comes to video capture, and that's gonna be tough for competitors to deal with. Of course, we just heard that the LG V60 ThinQ is gonna have 8K capture as well, but one of the greatest things about this is the video stabilization. So you have the regular stabilization mode, and then you have the super steady mode, which in my opinion should always be enabled. There's been improvements on both, but the super steady mode really gives you that walking on air, gimbal stabilized movement that is so pleasing to look at and so hard to replicate. And the last point I'll make about video is single take. What single take does is allows you to take that 9 or 10 second video clip and not have to worry about missing the moment to capture a photo that might have happened in there, and pulls it out on its own using AI recognition. And especially for social media, if you want to take just a quick 10-second video of something somebody's about to do or a quick action shot, then this is probably my favorite way to do it so that I get some cool other content along the way, some short GIFable videos, and some nice pictures too. And then there's this display, the 6.9-inch QHD+ HDR10+ dynamic AMOLED display that delivers us those punchy, deep colors that we are so used to seeing on Samsung and does not disappoint here. So the colors, the resolution, the sheer size of it make watching videos a joy already, plus the speakers add a really nice immersive experience. Then you have that 120Hz refresh rate, which is so pleasing on the eyes. Navigating through the phone, scrolling through lists, seeing different animations, all show a marked difference over the 60Hz refresh rate that we've seen on the Galaxy S10 and most phones today. So it's gonna be something that you're gonna notice all the time. Not only that, but with any games that support the 120Hz refresh rate, things come out so smooth and responsive, and it's just so much easier on the eyes if you're gaming for hours on end. So it's definitely a huge perk for big gamers. And last but not least is 5G. This is a $1,400 phone, and as we all know, 5G is on the cusp of world domination, so next year or the year after that, when it finally achieves it, you don't want to have to get a new phone after you dropped almost $1,500 on this. Where I was able to find 5G on Verizon's millimeter wave hardware, I was able to get about 2 gigabits per second of download speed. So it's nice to know that with this $1,400 phone, you'll have some of the fastest options for 5G when it gets to your area. Those are my 5 favorite features about the Galaxy S20 Ultra so far. Make sure you stay tuned for our full review and our in-depth camera comparison. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, make sure you let us know in the comments below.
Hello, welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. We enjoy having conversations about technology and about how it can help our lives out in everything that we do. And certainly when you talk about going to the gym, right, there are so many different ones out there, and it's really hard to choose which one. And if you're on the go, it's hard to find that specific one, but we may have a solution for that, and that is FlexIt. Right now, we've got the CEO and founder of FlexIt, Austin Cohen, joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I always like to talk about, talk to somebody about this when you're a founder of a company, what the inspiration was for you to go out and find a solution to the problem you were seeing. So maybe you can walk us through what that process was like.
So I've spent my career working with consumer companies, and over the last 5-6 years, consumers have been conditioned to be able to access everything they want at the tips of their fingers, anytime, anywhere, food, transportation, hospitality. But for trying new gyms, those consumption preferences of millennials and Gen Zers had not been catered to. So we thought there had to be a way to help gym owners match with those millennials and Gen Zers. And we brought FlexIt to the world about a year ago.
So talk to us about what FlexIt does, because I think we're all kind of familiar with, if you join a gym, whether it's 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness or whatever it is, you sign a contract and you can go there for a specific amount of time or whatever the contract is, and that's it. This kind of overcomes some of that. Can you talk to us about what the app actually does?
So for the first time ever, users can go to gyms, no tour, no paperwork. FlexIt is the most seamless way to access fitness facilities. We've got just over 2,000 facilities on our platform. We work with large national gym chains like Gold's and Crunch, as well as local facilities. And stay tuned, coming soon is Blink Fitness here in New York in the next week or two. And users can access these gyms whereby they only pay for their time in the facility. Rates are by the minute. So the user is able to control the entirety of his or her experience in that club as he or she samples the facility, take the classes, use the amenities, and leave when you're done.
So you walk in, you've got this on your app, and I noticed that just kind of showcasing there, they had kind of a little scanning setup where you scan yourself in, like there it is right there. And then you walk in, and then from that moment, you're charged by the minute. How is I've got a lot of questions, but talking about the rate, how is the rate determined per minute?
So when the user scans in at the code at the front desk, which we call our QR mount, the timer starts. The user will scan back out to end his or her session. And at that point, the timer will stop and the user will only be charged for the amount of time that he or she was in the facility. So if you go for 30, you pay for 30. If you go for 60, you pay for 60. Rates vary across the platform, even within brands. So for example, the rate at a Gold's Gym varies depending upon the facility that one goes to. So there's a number of factors at play in determining price, including market conditions, time of day, day of week. So we have a proprietary mechanism called dynamic pricing, whereby users are able to choose the time of day that best fits not only their fitness goals, but their wallet. So 2 p.m. may be cheaper within a given brand in a specific city than 3 p.m. and the user can make a smart decision to go and get that advantageous rate. Roughly speaking, the platform rates range from about 8 cents a minute to about 30 cents a minute. Although we do have some facilities that are priced both higher and lower. So if you're looking at about an hour workout, users are spending on the low end $4 or $5 and on the higher end about $18.
So it all just kind of depends on where you go. So I think that's probably something we're all familiar with too when it comes to, any kind of like ride sharing. I mean, you think about it, there's surge pricing. If it's a certain time of day, it's going to be more money on this end, or depending on how far you go, what you're doing. So I think that kind of platform is probably going to be familiar to people. I think this is really interesting, utilizing and incorporating these gyms, because for the gyms, talking about it from that side, it seems like, just from my experience, they really want you to sign a long-term contract. So I'm wondering, how does that work for FlexIt, and what gyms, I guess, are on board, and where's the advantage from their end?
So we're a marketing tool for gyms. We help get them more exposure. We're bringing new people through their facilities in a way that's in line with how millennials and Gen Zers are consuming, right? The way that a user accesses FlexIt is different, as you point out, than the typical way of accessing gyms. And we help gyms to touch people who are app users, who use smartphones to access seamlessly, who use Hotel Tonight, who use Airbnb, so on and so forth. And what we do is we work with all sorts of brands. So we can fit the goals of anyone who's looking to work out and get fit. We have facilities with basketball courts. We have facilities with swimming pools. We're helping people who live or work in cities to find the right gyms that fit their goals. So you'll find big, large national partners like a Retro Fitness and a Crunch and a Golds. And then you'll find local facilities. So regional chains, places with 20, 30, 50 units, places with 3, 4, 5 units, and then local one-offs.
I know that you also recently incorporated in some augmented reality features as well, which I think is, I always find that fascinating how that's being utilized. Can you talk about what that would do for somebody who is a FlexIt member?
So going to the gym can be an intimidating experience even if you are fit. And we're helping to reduce those barriers to intimidation. So our check-in, check-out process is entirely seamless. We've now taken that one step further. So in our app at select gyms, users can now tour the facilities before actually stepping foot in those clubs through augmented reality. Most of our gyms have swipe photos, so users can get visuals for what the facilities have. But through augmented reality, users can now tour specific gyms. They can see where the bathrooms are. They can see where the free weight equipment is. They can see where the cardio equipment is, so that by the time they go to the gym, despite never having actually been there before, the users can actually feel like they had been to that facility, making that experience much more comfortable, enabling that user to have an easier time stepping foot in a facility that he or she has not been to previously.
Can you talk about this concept of, when you go to the gym, you mentioned that there's the classes, there's everything else that you can take advantage of, as a membership. When we talk about, there's a phone going off. Okay, got it right there. There's this idea of pay by the minute personal training. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so rolling out as of early 2020, announced at CES, is FlexIt Training, which is our new all-access on-demand personal training service. Many of our gym partners offer personal training. Trainers are unused inventory during large portions of day. So now trainers are beginning to take on FlexIt customers during their idle time. So if a trainer has a client at 11 and another client at 2, that trainer's got downtime between 12 and 2, and that trainer has 2 hours of availability to open up sessions to FlexIt users. The sessions can be accessed hyper a la carte. So now in increments of 15 minutes, folks can go and work out with a trainer, and they can share this session with a friend, be it 1, 2, or 3 other individuals. Just like the augmented reality feature, this helps to make the experience of going to a new gym more comfortable. The trainer can help the user to feel comfortable in the new facility so that the user's ready to continue to work out there.
Well, it's definitely an interesting use case of that, and it's certainly, talking about technology and how it can improve our lives, and augmented reality is something that's pretty fascinating. I want to say thank you very much for joining us here today, too, and where can I send people to try out FlexIt?
So please send folks to the App Store. So download FlexIt, both available on iOS and Android. Follow us on Instagram at FlexIt, FLEXIT_fitness. And please reach out to us at info@FlexIt, FLEXIT.fit. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks for joining us today. Definitely an interesting platform there. And continuing on here with Digital Trends Live, I want to say thank you to everybody who's joining us. We've got a lot to talk about. So coming up next, we have Davin Matthews. He's going to be joining us to talk about, let me see, he always brings in something cool, the Fujifilm X-T4. So we're going to have that here with us. So if you have questions about that, drop those into whatever platform you're watching on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, so hit that subscribe button, whatever platform you are on. That way you get notifications when we go live. And also you can catch up on everything we get to talk about because we like to keep you up to date on technology. And right now, let's do just that. Joining me, I have Mr. Devin Matthews, who clearly got the word about the uniform for today. So thank you for following along with that. It's very important that we match here on the show.
I'll keep my sleeves rolled down so you don't get confused.
Just so you know who's who. That's Davin. I'm Greg, just to make sure that we have that clarified. All right, so let's talk about cameras. What do we have here today?
I've got a problem. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, so we were going to have the camera in here, but...
so Fujifilm was overnighting the new X-T4, and it's still on its way.
Still on its way.
It didn't make it. That's the thing with live shows, I guess. Sometimes,
it happens.
The show must go on.
The show must go on, but we do have to talk about it. So it's the Fujifilm X-T4?
Correct.
Okay.
So this is their new, well, they sort of have several flagship lines, actually. This is one of them. So this is their new high-end camera. It's replacing the X-T3, go figure. But what's interesting is that camera was only about 1.5 years old. So this is a much faster development cycle than what we've seen in the past.
Usually it's a lot longer, right, for cameras?
So for that series, it's usually a full 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting this one so quickly is interesting. It does use a lot of the same core tech as the X-T3. It's the same 26 megapixel sensor. It's the same processor. But what they've done is they've added a new stabilization system. So you now get 5-axis stabilization in the camera, which is very impressive for this camera. That's actually a technology that just a few years ago, Fujifilm had said they wouldn't be able to put into their cameras because of size constraints.
Really?
So the fact that they figured out a way to get this to work is really impressive. Now, I haven't had any hands-on time with it yet. That's supposed to be right now. But I will be shooting it over the next couple of weeks. They're sending a pre-production version over, so I'll get to test it out. And then they've also included things like a fully articulating monitor. So for like vlogging and YouTubers, you can now see yourself on the camera. That's something the series hasn't had before. And they finally introduced a new, bigger battery. So one of the biggest downsides of these cameras in the past was these small batteries.
Yeah.
Got about 300 to 400 shots per charge. And now they're actually pushing that closer to 600 in economy mode. So a lot of good stuff for professional users there too. They're going to be able to use the camera longer, shoot faster as well.
Right.
So they're really just trying to refine this product as much as possible, even though you're getting the same sensor, so basically the same image quality as what you had previously.
But some of those other bells and whistles are a lot better, or as far as improved performance.
And I think the big one is that stabilization.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be very happy with that.
This seems like they're trying to target several different markets at the same time with this thing.
Yeah, that's very true. So it's also a very capable video camera. Not a lot there has changed from the X-T3, except it can shoot, so it does 4K like the X-T3 did, but it can also shoot now 240 frames per second in full HD. So if you want to do slow motion, you have a new super slow motion option for that. And then, of course, the articulating screen is useful for video shooters as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is a very versatile machine, much more so than older XT cameras in this series, which were really just kind of targeting photographers and specifically like street photographers, travel photographers, people who liked the classic analog look and feel but needed a digital camera. And now Fujifilm's completely gone the other direction as well, so they've completely sort of stratified from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other in this one product. So
it seems that internal stabilization, just kind of going back to that seems to be a really key feature for pretty much any camera that people want now.
It is, and it's one of those things that they probably felt a lot of pressure to do because Sony's been doing it for the past couple generations of their competing camera. So I'm very pleased to see that they were able to figure out how to put it in this camera. And I'm excited to check it out to see how well it actually works. I've seen some other demos that people have done, and it looks very impressive. So it will depend on what lens you're using. If you're using a stabilized lens, you're going to get up to 6.5 stops of stabilization. Other lenses, depending on some factors, are going to be less than that, but they don't really say which lens will be how much. So
So, well, yeah, to be determined then, I guess, on that side of things. Looking at this, you mentioned some of the competing cameras in there, and Sony having stabilization for a while. Who else is this kind of going for? What tier are we talking about, and how much money is this one actually?
Yeah, so this camera is $1,700, which is a little bit more expensive than the X-T3 when it launched, but it is actually cheaper than Fujifilm's high-end XH camera, the XH1, which was their first camera that had stabilization in it.
Okay.
So that camera launched at $2,000. So this is actually taking a lot of those features. It's basically better than that camera in every way, and is $300 cheaper than when it launched. So even though it is more expensive than the X-T3, I don't think people should get too upset about that, because you're getting a lot of technology and features there for the price.
So yeah, so that's good then, I guess, as far as what that price is, because every time you hear that, you think, okay, that's a lot of money. But I mean, comparatively, that's what you're getting with these kinds of cameras. Going forward, I guess, is there any kind of other add-ons that they could put onto this, other than lenses? Is there any kind of
yeah, I mean, other than lenses, that's they got their flash system, of course. But I think what I've looked at is like, what are they going to do next to this camera? Because right now it seems like this is the perfect camera, and I actually wrote an article to that effect, because that was my reaction when I saw it. I was like, okay, do we finally have the perfect camera?
Because it covers all of those different sides of things that you would use a camera for.
Right, and it's the camera that erases every complaint I've ever raised about the XT series. So it'll be interesting to review. Although I did learn since writing that they have they pulled an Apple move. They removed the headphone jack.
Really?
Yeah. So
why?
instead, you
if
have
it's something that big, why would you pull that?
Well, right, because they have plenty of room. So they do have a USB-C port. You can connect headphones to that. You can use an adapter for your standard headphones if you want to. But yeah, so there it is.
That seems like I don't know why I got so upset by that, but that's
9 out of 10, not
choice.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does it have like Bluetooth capability or?
Not for audio. You can transfer, control the camera.
I mean, especially if you're shooting something out in the field, or you're shooting wildlife or whatever
right.
you're doing.
And I'm not opposed to using the USB-C port, but it's a little weird on this level of camera to not just put in everything.
Throw in a headphone jack, interesting. But overall, I mean, you'll be getting it soon, and
it's probably here right now.
Probably here now. Like you said, it's part of live television. You never know when it's going to get here, but. Awesome. Well, as far as this, you said that you have something up already written about.
Yeah, so we've certainly covered the news and the announcement. You can go read my sort of pre-review of it. And then we'll be working on a full review in the next couple of weeks. So.
Awesome. Well, Davin, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for letting us know. Your blue shirt looks amazing, by the way. And I do want to say,
it brings out your eyes.
We've got more coming up here for the show. Coming up next, we've got Brian Wallace, who's the president of NowSourcing, to talk about everything that they're doing and talking about basically, infographics and how different things work with that and different marketing ideas that they have along those lines. We'll talk about their platform next. We've got lots to talk about here on Digital Trends, though. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Again, thank you everyone for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. And we get to have all kinds of conversations about technology. And we're going to do that right now, talking about infographics and how important they are, right? We probably look at one every single day at least, and they can share so much information. But let's talk about a company who is really at the forefront of that. And joining us right now, we have Brian Wallace, who's the president of NowSourcing. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, sir. Pleasure. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I want to give everybody just the context to understand everything that the company does, and then we'll go forward and talk about a bunch of different things. But can you give everybody just kind of what NowSourcing is?
Sure. So I like to tell people that I basically change people's minds for a living, which sounds a little scary, but we mean that on the side of good folks. A lot of folks love to dive into all the details and solutioning and all of that, but that's like going to a fancy restaurant, and rather than having a good time and all the ambiance, you just get read all of the ingredients. And it's like, just back up a little bit, get off the ledge. And this isn't how we all make decisions as a society, right? We actually make decisions on an emotional connection level. Then we listen to a good story because that's the best way that the brain understands it, especially visually, as they say, picture's worth 1,000 words. And then we can look at all of the facts and stats that back all of that up. And I always wonder why people forget that, because that's how we all make decisions. A lot of times, I think we don't want to admit that all the limbic system and the fight and flight response and all of the stuff that's locked in the trapdoor of the subconscious mind has a lot more control over us than we think, right? We just ask our friends on Facebook, hey, right, how was your tangential experience with X? Oh, sure, I did something once. Okay, well, we want to think that we are all sophisticated and wear suits and ties, and sometimes we do. But we like to think that we make all these sophisticated 100-page research report decisions, and a lot of times we don't. Because we don't have all that.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting too, just reminding ourselves of that and just that emotional connection. So when it comes to like an infographic, how do you engage somebody's emotions at the same time as providing accurate, factual information?
Right. And I'm glad you added the accurate and factual, because 86% of all stats are made up right on the spot, right? And sometimes 58%, depending on how the wind is blowing. So we have to make sure to engage with people. So I like to tell people, imagine, if you will, that, let's say, the uninitiated or the expert or the journalist, whoever it happens to be, they're just looking at a one-liner. And maybe that's just the subject line of an email. So that has to be so good that in the 12 to 15 times a day that a person might be sitting at the computer to be trying to make their life better, whether they're commuting to work, whether they're kind of just trying to wake up in the morning, if they're getting ready for lunch, after lunch, when they're kind of in their food coma thing, when they're just killing time at the end of the day, on the way back home, ready before bed, all these different times, people want to search around the internet to make their lives better and to learn things. So getting that emotional hook to stop people in their tracks from clicking away, right? You have all these people that quote all these stats, depending on who you listen to, right? Some people say you have 2.7 seconds to get somebody's attention on the web before they're gone forever. Some people say that we have the attention span of goldfish, 8 seconds. Yet it's the same people, you and I and everybody else, that we're all gonna watch, like Amazon Prime just came out with Hunters, right? So everybody's gonna watch that and binge watch it for hours on the weekend. So how is it that we can penetrate the mind past that garbage filter, right?
Yeah.
Of the 2.7 to 8 seconds, and then watch hours. And it is that emotional hook backed up by really good statistics. It has to be something that whatever side you're on, the for or against side would look at this stat and say, I could use this stat to make my opinion. And I think that's a really important point. Not to just cite sources and say random dude's blog or Wikipedia, actually take the time to put it together correctly.
That here is a fact. Well, talking about that from that visual standpoint, it's funny you brought up Hunters. I just started that yesterday. But looking at it, from that standpoint, if you only have a few seconds to grab somebody's attention and to bring them in, what are some of the different visual trends that you're seeing in association with that? What is this market doing to bring people in?
Yeah, so a lot of people, depending on when you've been initiated on the internet, some people, especially like older school journalists, they're going to say, well, infographics are dead. And I would say, well, for every clickbait journalist that's trying to get money for making you read it, sure, why not? Everything's dead. Blogs are dead. Live streaming's dead. I mean, where are we right now? We're live streaming. So I don't know. I think you really need to question where all that stuff comes from, right? So really getting people involved in it, not just from that beginning seed of a thought, but really as you start to scroll down to really layer in all of those persuasive arguments into the storyline, I think that there was a watershed moment in the world of infographics around 2012, 2013. Too many people tried to make them, and they didn't, and they cut too many corners, right? I like to tell people, you remember that part in Forrest Gump? I'm going to ruin the movie for you guys, but it's been out long enough. So remember the time when he's making the shrimp boat and then they can't catch anything, right?
Right.
Then they go ahead and there's this huge storm and it knocks out all of the boats, and then they totally kill it and they own the entire industry, right? So I feel like for the folks that really took this medium seriously, and we look at this as an end-to-end medium where it's basically part research and design, but also the emotion and the stats, and then all of the PR and SEO stuff that goes into it, reaching out to the media, I think that we've really kind of made it its own thing, that it gets a lot of people's attention and keeps a lot of their attention. People look at it and it's just, oh, this is just a quick read, but it's not. If you put a clock timer to a lot of these infographics, you could be looking at a 5-minute read, right? With all sorts of rabbit trails.
Yeah, and I mean, and there really is truly an art form to that, to creating something like that, even the ones that you were just demonstrating right there, to bring people in, but still have that factual information on top of it as well. And just kind of talking about, you know, the art side of it, the creativity side of it. I know also you're an advisory member for South by Southwest, and I wondered if you could kind of speak to that side of things and kind of this conjunction of tech and business and marketing all going into South by Southwest.
Right. So this is my first year on the South by Southwest Advisory Board. For those of you who aren't familiar with South by Southwest or wonder why people like me to go to it, and a lot of my friends say, hey, why are you going to a music conference? I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Maybe 30 years ago it was just a music conference, but it's the intersection of creativity and technology. And without it, we wouldn't have had really watershed moments in the social and creative web. So back in, I believe it was, South by Southwest 2007 was the explosion of everything Twitter. Foursquare and geolocation got its start there. Live streaming and Meerkat and all the early days of that got its start there. So really, it's a place where it's almost like the modern day World's Fair. Mm-hmm. So I am very excited about this year. I know a lot of the world is a little scared with all sorts of different health concerns, and South by is taking it seriously. Although I am on the advisory board, I don't speak for the company and the conference. There is a southbysouthwest.com health and safety page, and I encourage everybody to get updates on that page that are keeping close watch of that. But I'm very excited. I feel like there's a lot of emerging tech and technology trends that are coming out this year. I really feel like AI is definitely one of the front runners. It's not one of those things that's sitting on the shelf and maybe it'll get there. I feel like there's a lot of companies that we help and support and get a lot of stuff into the news cycle, that it's not just theoretical anymore. There's a lot of stuff that's actually happening in today's world. Also surprisingly, most surprisingly to me at least, because we get to look at the purview across a lot of different kinds of industries across the world, I find that we have never been this busy in health-related companies. And I feel like there's tectonic shifts that are happening within specific nuances of the health world, but health and AI, information sharing, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on that. And also, cannabis has become a very large contender for that show. I know a lot of the blockchain folks have been attending the last few years. You know, not everybody's excited with all of the performance of that, but what are you going to do? And then what else can I say? I would say voice technology is certainly making a huge run for it. I think that people don't realize the footprint that it already has in many houses and businesses, and I'm very excited to see that. And also would be remiss to not talk about LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn, I mean, we're both broadcasting off of Microsoft Surfaces, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like LinkedIn is really going to be a strong contender at South by Southwest. Last year, they really broke out big on the scene with the LinkedIn Studio. And I know that they've got a lot of really interesting stuff planned as well this year.
And we're actually broadcasting live on LinkedIn right now as well. So,
I'm watching you on the other screen. Yep.
There it is. Well, Brad, I want to say thank you so much for joining us too. I mean, there's just so many fascinating things that are going on with this, and all of those facets of technology that you just brought up. We follow along really closely with that too, and it'll be interesting to see what we get showcased. You know, knock on wood, assuming everything goes according to plan. You know, life is life. There's things that can change that, but South by Southwest is definitely going to be exciting, and so is everything that you're doing. So I want to say thank you very much for joining us to have this conversation, and maybe we can have another one here in the near future.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the event.
Yeah, great. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, so interesting, right? Learning about all those different things and talking about infographics. We all look at them, we all get engaged with them, but it's fascinating to think about what goes into that and what the behind the scenes are of how we engage with that. I'm going to be thinking about it a little bit more next time I'm engaged in one about what brought me into it. I need to get to a break. We've got a lot coming up. I've got some more news for you. We've got Riley Winn with his Man on the Street video. We've got some more interviews, lots of stuff to cover, so stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. I want to keep you up to date on what's going on in tech and show you what is happening around the world right now and happening on the internet, including some cool things. Let's talk about rockets right now. I've got two different rocket things to bring up for you. Actually, three, technically. But first up, let's do this. There's a video that's circulating having to do with a SpaceX test. So SpaceX, as we know, is preparing eventually to send humans up in their Dragon Crew capsule. But there's a lot of tests that have to go through in order to get to that point. And there's a video that started circulating. Now, they have not, as of right now, made a comment about this, but it doesn't matter. The video's out there. And it showcases one of their Starship rockets where they're doing a pressure test. And one of the things that happened with this pressure test is that it actually blew up. So we've got the video showcasing. I'll talk about that other one here in just a minute. There we go. That is the one where there's a pressure test where this thing, they have to do that, obviously, to send it up into space. Didn't go as planned. Blew up. It's actually kind of a fun video. Now, I want to keep in mind, nobody was hurt during this. This is a very important thing, and you want this to happen now. Just because it's a setback with that, I mean, and they've talked about this before, how, you know, setbacks are bound to happen. You're going to have some failures, and you want to have all those failures during tests like this, not when there's actually somebody being launched on that thing. But that is what happened. A pressure test went up. It was using liquid nitrogen to actually give it this test. It blew, it kind of imploded, blew up. Pretty crazy video to take a look at, but that's what happens when you're doing these kinds of things. That's what happens when you're running these tests, and this is one of the videos that was actually showcased of that, so you can find out more about that at digitaltrends.com, and I do have another one actually to showcase going back to that, and this was a NASA test. This was a successful test, but the video is just kind of cool, so I wanted people to see it, and this is testing one of their Orion, that's steering for the Orion LAS, and this is essentially what eventually is part of the system that's going to take people as part of the Artemis project, which is going to the moon. NASA has a huge plan to send people back to the moon and establish a base there. But this is one of the rockets to where if something went wrong, this would be what would stabilize the actual crew. So say it ejected away from the rocket, then this was how it would stabilize itself. So it's got all these different rockets firing off from the side. What that would do would actually right it and then stabilize it before then a the parachutes would deploy. But that's showcasing that and just how powerful that is, the different rockets that they have going on that. Fascinating stuff to follow along with this, and just showcases how many different organizations are working on space travel right now, what levels they're working on. They're all working together to some extent as well. Certainly NASA and SpaceX are partnering, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But looking at those two videos, pretty cool stuff to see. It's unfortunate the SpaceX one failed, but that's part of it. Much better to fail then and have a little bit of a setback on setting people up than have that happen later on. So I'm glad they're doing all those tests. You can read more about both of those at digitaltrends.com. All right, and speaking of SpaceX and NASA partnering, let's talk about this. So SpaceX has SpaceX has announced, along with NASA, that they are going to be partnering together to send a mission to an asteroid. And the asteroid is called Psyche. So that is actually the name of the asteroid itself. But the goal is this. This is a plan that was announced a few years ago, actually, where they want to send an orbiter up to this asteroid to kind of encircle it and analyze it and determine what it is made of, because there's a lot of information you can find out from something like that. But talking about the mission itself, they are going to be utilizing SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rockets to get this orbiter up there. It's going to be a cost of $117 million, which that may seem like a lot of money, but really it is not in the grand scheme of things. That proves actually how low the price is getting for sending these things up, which means we can do more and more with them, more exploratory missions. But you may be wondering, why would we go and encircle an asteroid? What is the point behind that? Well, the point is you can find out a lot about the solar system, a lot about the history of the universe. They're going to be determining if Psyche is a core or if it's unmelted material. Like, did it bust off of another planet or is it formed on its own? They'll determine the relative age of it on different surfaces, because they're going to be using all kinds of different multispectral imagers. They've got gamma ray and neutron spectrometers, magnetometers. All the ometers are going to be on there. And that can also determine a lot about the Earth, because if they can determine where this is from, it may give us an idea of what is actually happening inside the Earth itself. It's pretty fascinating, including what kind of metals. You have to think, like, extrapolating that further out. It could be something that could be mined. Who knows? This is what we're looking at with that, but that is one more thing you can read about at digitaltrends.com. Now, next, we need to do this, because we are going to play one of our own Riley Winn's videos. So Riley went out onto the streets of Portland, Oregon, and asked some questions for Fantasy Fight. Yes, Fantasy Fight. And you will probably have your own opinions about this, but he asked some people on the street. Let's go ahead and roll that right now. Here it is, Riley Winn with Fantasy Fights.
What's up, guys? I'm Riley Winn, and this is Fantasy Face Off, a show where we suggest spectacular showdowns and let society determine the winner. Let's see what they had to say. Who would win in a fight, Mario or Master Chief?
That's tough, but I mean, Master Chief is Halo. Come on, I'm Master Chief. I mean,
it's Master Chief. Why? Because he's the guy. But Mario's the guy. Okay, but Mario doesn't have a gun.
I like how hard you're thinking about this.
Master Chief's got a suit, but Super Mario, man, he can break blocks, and that's a tough one, dude.
Oh, Master Chief, right? Mario ain't got nothing on him.
I think Mario would take the dub here. I think just like he might one-up, get those one-ups, throw them fireballs, kind of burn him or something. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't play video games.
Yeah, I'm going Mario.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of things in the Mario world that can help him win for sure.
Pikachu or Donkey Kong?
Ooh, I don't know. That's tough. Donkey Kong is like big, but Pikachu go hard. Not gonna lie. Probably Pikachu.
Like a wild Pikachu?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never found a wild Pikachu. I feel like they'd be pretty feisty.
He's gonna just smack Pikachu. That's it. So
Definitely Pikachu though. He would just lightning bolt straight to the ground in the ring. But he'd probably break the arena too, come down right in the head.
Pikachu. Yeah, he got Donkey Kong, got the smash, but that electricity don't play. It don't play.
Pikachu, dude. It goes against all kinds of crazy Pokemon, dude. You think
What if Ash isn't there? Ooh. Pac-Man or Kirby?
Kirby, definitely. Yeah. You don't think so? I mean, I think
Pac-Man's good about eating all those dots up.
Yeah, that's true, but Kirby can eat anything. He can eat anything, shoot it back out at him, so yeah, Kirby.
Pac-Man.
Why? Because this one's so cute?
That one's in Pac-Man, there's the little circles, and Pac-Man eats the circles. He's circular shaped. He's gonna get eaten.
I mean, Pac-Man gets killed by ghosts, so it's Kirby.
Sonic or Link from Zelda?
Sonic. He's too fast.
I don't know. I think Link, dude. Link.
Sonic is too fast. I don't know. Yeah, I think it could go either way, but I think Sonic for sure.
Link, because he seems like he'd be more like fight-minded. I don't know. Not to judge a book by its cover, but that's what he looks like. Yeah.
He looks like
Yeah, Sonic just looks like he runs around.
Can't really stop the speed. He's gonna come from behind you. You're gonna see him there, left. He's going left, right, uppercut. You already know. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, Sonic, man, he's too fast. He's just every time he goes to do something, he's probably.
Well, guys, that was Fantasy Face-Off. If there's a matchup you guys want to see, let us know in the comments section from wherever you're watching. Until next time, I'm Riley Winn with Digital Trends.
Well, hello there. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Jeopardy. Thank you for joining us here today. All right, we need to continue on with the show. I appreciate everybody who's joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, join in the conversations we get to have, because right now we're going to talk about awesome tech you can't buy yet. And to do so, we are joined by Drew Prindle. Hello, Drew.
How's it going?
I can't say it without doing that voice.
I know. I mean, you have to. You have to do the monster truck announcer voice.
Physically impossible for me not to do that. But I know I love this segment because you spend all of this time going across the internet fighting all these crowdfunding campaigns.
I actually have time built into my schedule to like just surf Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Search stuff.
Because I've been doing this for so long.
Well, let's talk about some of the ones that we want to highlight today. I know this first one, correct me if I'm wrong, is this a solar-powered bike light?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I assumed that this was a thing.
Is this not a thing?
Apparently it is, but like it's not a very common thing, which is like really
Weird.
surprising. Like, why are we still using like ones that you have to like charge and put batteries in?
Yeah.
Stuff, right?
And that is really annoying, actually. My batteries always die on that, and then I forget to change them.
So apparently with the, I don't know, advances in battery technology and also in solar cells, it's become not only like better and easier to do solar power collection or whether in like a really small a thing, but also using like better LEDs and stuff. You can sip way more power. So this has become like not only doable in the past few years, but also cheap now. Because batteries are so much cheaper now than they've ever been, and also solar panels.
And that's true, yeah, because that's a really tiny panel that's on that thing. No more, it doesn't look like it's much more than a regular bike light that you would normally buy.
Totally.
So this is the Lida?
Yeah.
Lida.
And it just juices itself up continuously, even in just like low sunlight conditions. So presumably you never have to charge it, and it'll provide light. The thing is, I gotta say, it doesn't look particularly bright.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be an issue. Yeah, that doesn't look super bright.
The thing is, it's a project from the Netherlands, I believe. So they're just like, yeah, I mean, bikes are everywhere. We don't have. It's not like the States where you have to like make yourself insanely visible.
Oh, yeah.
Put reflectors on every inch of your body just to not get, plowed over by a car.
Yeah, you assume everybody is trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what I assume. They're intentionally trying to run me over unless I'm bright enough.
This light seems like it's just like, you're required to have a light on your bike.
Fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
just put this one on there. That'll satisfy the requirement.
Well, the idea is cool, though, so maybe they can build this up from there.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they couldn't make the LEDs a little bit more powerful.
Even if it, like, brings down some of the battery life.
Yeah, I mean, at least make it a setting, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that is the Lida. So this is, again, awesome tech you can't buy yet. So that is one of the ones you can read about at Digital Trends. Continuing on, let's take a look. What do we have next? The ultrasonic cleaner?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is this thing?
There have been a couple of these on Kickstarter and Indiegogo over the past couple years, but none of them were particularly nice. What it is it's a ultrasonic-based cleaner thing. So it has a little unit with a bunch of settings on it. There's one for like dishes, there's one for clothes, there's one for just like washing your hands or whatever, and then there's a little ultrasonic transducer that you just like stick in the water.
Wait, you drop it actually into the water?
Yeah, it's this little vibrating thing, I guess.
Okay.
And what that does is it sends out these ultrasonic sound waves that agitate the water molecules so much that it creates these little cavitation bubbles. They're invisible to the naked eye, but what they do is they basically make the water so turbulent that they rip apart any bacteria that's in it. It's a process called sonication, and they actually use it in scientific labs like all the time. That's how they'll clean lab equipment.
Huh.
Because you don't have to use any like harsh chemicals that might contaminate like a sample or whatever.
Yeah, it's just the vibration of the water.
Yeah.
And they're showcasing a whole bunch of different things that they're thrown into this.
Totally. Yeah, I think this is a great use case right here. Like, let's say you are a person who travels a lot and you stay in hotel rooms and you don't have good, easy access to like a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
You could presumably just like clean your clothes in the sink using this thing. The little cavitation bubbles like knock out dirt, knock it off of the fabric, and it's actually pretty gentle because it's not like physically, moving the thing, agitating the. It's not like a washer that has like the spinning action that's kind of ripping your clothes in different directions.
I want to try this out just to see how clean it actually does get like a shirt.
Yeah.
Like, does it remove the smells? I mean, I guess in theory it probably would, but that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool in a short amount of time.
This is another pretty cool thing right here. They actually put a piece of tinfoil around it, and you can see it ripping that apart because it's like too solid, and it actually the sound wave poke holes in the aluminum foil.
Weird.
Yeah.
I like this one. I kind of want to try this thing out. So this is called Ultrasana, and I'm taking a look here just at their page. So this is on Kickstarter. Oh yeah, it's way funded. There was a $5,000 $5,004 goal. That's a weird goal. $4. But they're $180,000 funded right now, so well funded. And it looks like a lot of people want to get that. So
it also seems like it's pretty far along in the development process. This is
Yeah.
not something that they're like prototyping. Like it's pretty much like a done deal. They already have working final versions of the product.
where you're going to be able to get this thing. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So I kind of want to take a look at that. Actually, I might end up funding that. It's a little bit disturbing. This guy's putting his shorts into the sink, but I mean, I guess that's what you got to do. I wouldn't want to be his roommate though if you're sharing a hotel with somebody. But still, this is a cool way to. What is he doing with the fruit? Cleaning the fruit?
It
Weird.
knocks off like pesticides and stuff like that.
I am fascinated by this one.
Isn't it such a cool idea?
Yeah. Okay. I want to see this thing. All right. So that is the ultrasonic cleaner. Last one we have is a solid state watch.
Yeah. So this is a very, very weird one. Every so often there are these projects that pop up on Kickstarter that are like kind of this weird intersection between like tech and art.
Yeah.
And then there's these super high concept weird things that will really only appeal to a small number of people, but they work on Kickstarter. If there's anywhere that they're going to work, they will work on that platform.
You'll find your market. And so it's a solid state watch. So it really is just solid state drive on it?
No. So what they mean by that is basically what they do is they take out the guts of a Casio watch, I forget what model it is, and then they cast it into a solid piece of clear resin.
Okay.
So like there are 0 buttons. You can't open it once they send it to you. You can't do anything with it, right? Like you can't change the time. You can't change the batteries. It's just there. It will last for about like 10 years until it's dead. And it's kind of this like high concept idea of like time as being this like immutable thing that you can't change, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they picked a little time unit that's pretty reliable. It'll only drift about a second every like 1 year.
Okay.
But the thing is, since you can't adjust it for daylight savings time.
I was just going to say, yeah, what about that?
Or like leap years or anything like that.
Or like traveling. Like what if you're like, okay, now I'm on East Coast time. I need to adjust
you
this.
can't do it. It's out of your hands.
Not allowed.
Not allowed at all. But the one cool thing, aside from the artsy fartsiness of it, is the fact that it's because it's encased in resin, it is completely 100% waterproof. Like there are no places where water could even get into it. So you can go swimming with this sucker and no issues.
Time's an illusion, man.
It's a construct.
All right. Well, I mean, the idea is kind of cool. So it's a Casio F91W.
Yes.
So permanently encased in resin. You cannot touch it after it's there. You better hope that they get the right time zone when you order
so
it.
apparently that's part of the pledging process. When they fulfill it, they ask you where you're living, so what time they want it to be synced to, and then that little orange dot you see on it, apparently it has a year reading or whatever.
Okay.
But they put a little dot over that to hide that, so it's just the time you don't actually
So it just covers it up. Weird.
Yeah.
All right. That is, I mean, just the fact that it's gone this far along, where it's, it's well funded too. $8,000 goal, $56,900.
That's what I'm saying. People are into these kinds of strange, high concept things because you couldn't. I mean, this is not something that you would find in a store. Nobody's gonna buy a watch that like would die in 10 years.
Right.
And you can't. There are no buttons on it. Nobody's gonna do that. But since they presented it in this way and they've put it on the internet, they've found the people that are interested in something like this, and it's, like you said, really well funded.
There's a market for everybody. All right, well, there it is. And again, awesome tech you can't buy yet is an entire section at Digital Trends. You can go through and look at all the older ones, look at these ones, and every week Drew has more to take a look at.
Yes, indeed.
And his time is set aside on his schedule to go do this. So he will find the most awesomest tech out there. Drew, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Always fun. And thank you to everybody for joining us here too on Digital Trends Live. And I want to remind you, we are live here every single weekday. We've talked about a lot today, but tomorrow on Digital Trends Live, we're going to be talking about app security and app quality of service. So we've been hearing a lot about the voting apps and how the Iowa caucus app basically failed. And Bogdan Odolinsky, the CEO of Clean Apps, which is the trade organization for app makers and sellers dedicated to helping them thrive and providing secure and safe experiences for the end users, will be here on the show. So there hasn't been a trade organization in the past, and Clean Apps just came out of stealth mode, so it should be an interesting conversation. We'll also be talking about all kinds of different tech tomorrow. As usual, we'll have our editors in here to bring you up to date on that. We've got Tony Utley, the president of Honeywell Quantum Solutions, who will be joining. Honeywell has an innovative trapped ion model of quantum computing. There's a mouthful, which pushes them into the quantum race in a meaningful way. So tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, wherever you consume content. For Digital Trends, I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.